Welcome on in to day number 6. Day number 6 of our Embroider versus challenge, us against the computer auto digitization feature. And our challenge has come a long way. Before we get into the details, we'll recap our last session. Kind of add some more context into what's going on with our new updated projects. Let's go ahead and head on over to our desk scene and explain exactly what we got going on here. So once again, days 1 through 3, our format, technique, and style was a little bit all over the place, trying to find our rhythm, trying to find our flow. Day number 6, we can go ahead and explain it a little bit clearer. We have a directed project from Sheevs directly. We have some limits as far as how many stitches we would like to use. And the reason for that is we're going to digitize and stitch this out. Get a nice time lapse going. And the challenge is still on. We're still going to compare it to the auto digitization function. See what we can learn. But we've come a long way. We have our chisel method, which we perfected and coined, our patented pending chisel method. At least that's what we're using to get some of these shapes. Went a whole hour in our last live stream. Again, just setting this up. We're going to do our full 30 days, but this item is a special one because it's at our direction from Sheevs directly. Again, I'm K22, alternate skin over here for Sheevs Emporium. Let's go ahead and jump into the software now. It is called Embroidery. Here we are. So once again, taking a look at our inspiration image here. Let's go ahead and unlock this. The reason for that is just to show it on screen, the size that we're working with. 9 inches in height with a width of 7.5. And we have our patented pending chisel method in full effect that we've used to get this far. If you're curious what that is, we created an entire shape. An entire shape was created, rectangular, and we're going to be using some more of that knife method, but essentially we're selecting our shapes, going into our knife option, and from here you can see we're slicing, dicing like a surgeon making its cut for the very first time. And so let's dive right in. We started to add a little bit more detail, get into a nice flow-based attempt. And so as we move into our next section, we're going to leave the helmet alone for a little while. Today we're going to jump into again, we're using a blanket stitch so we can see exactly what we need to see underneath. Let's go back into our knife option here. again, crossing both entry and exits, as long as we cross both two pink lines. This will create our cut for us. Let's move on to our secondary section here. So again, just creating some of these detail accent cuts. We'll come back in. And recolor some of them as well. So off screen, what we did do, let's delete some of that there. For some of you just joining us, again, I am K22 with Sheevs Emporium. We are on day 6 of our Embroider versus Challenge, right in the mix of it, attempting to fully digitize and create our version, in which we then compare it to the computerized auto digitization feature. And from there, currently the score is in our favor, as we're gathering new techniques. Let's go ahead and add a little bit more color. For some of you who may have noticed, I did go through, change out our color palettes, resequence a little bit off screen. And the reason for that is, go ahead and figure out what color this one was, labeled as 70 Smoky, which you probably cannot see on your screen. I'm going to go back to this section here, change it over, change it over. And that's what we're going for, is just a layered effect. Interesting. So on screen, again, our current style at this point is we're going to be doing a large narrative with a heavy audio track playing throughout. Slight instructional, just more of a narrative glimpse of the creative process as we go through this. For some of you who want to follow along, maybe recreate this on your own. So to finish the thought, the selection was a reshape, which revealed that's where we're going with it. Look at all these stitch angles. Go ahead and just leave that alone. Instead of a simple stitch angle is what I'm trying to show, like the one above. If we were to hit H on there, you'd see there's only one angle in this entire thing. And if we click H on here, you got a lot more angles, creating a different overall look. Let's see. Grab this, and again, we used a different technique and tool revealed in episode 5. We're going to display that now. And the way we do that, duplicate, change to an outline, change it over to a black, and also a triple run, and outline of detail. Now I'm not going to add it on this secondary or even fourth item because it's surrounded by black already. So working our way down, let's do it to this lower one. Go ahead and hit our selection tool. Change over to an outline. Black and triple run. We're still selected, so we're going to grab our knife tool. I am going to make a cut to remove that top portion. Again, no black needed here to create this separation, but we'll have a triple run. And just as it sounds, it is a triple run. If we switched over to a single, see it gets a little lighter. But we want a darker effect, so there. We'll hit triple run, save. And at this time, only 14 minutes in, we can actually hold off on that. Again, this is a one-take deal. We have our break on cue, rather. We're going to hold off on that for now. Let's go ahead and finish this up. Again, using this technique that we have found to be extremely beneficial. But what we covered last time is if you're going to triple run and you're going to triple run on this other item, that's like a lot more than a triple run. So point's been made, we can move on. Essentially just remove the overlaps. And there we have it. Let's go ahead and create an outline around this single item here. Again, hitting Control Duplicate, changing to an outline, changing our color, working through our workflow, getting our knife tool, and look at that one. This one came together much quicker without as much detailed elaboration. Now, on your screen during a rewatch, I did notice this is something we'll try to work on and towards by upgrading our equipment, our settings a little bit to allow some of these changes. But what I'm noticing here on an end user, the zooming in and out function is just creating a lot more detail. I came across another video, an example where the entire format of digitizing was at one selected zoom level, which was about here. And so, again, different techniques. We are self-taught, just learning as we go along. The zooming in is definitely how we're achieving a lot more of these sections. Pausing for reflection as we move into our next area. Let's go ahead and hide selected. And the reason for that is, let's take a look at all these detailed items here. What we're going to do is relax our selection tool, pick the appropriate color of black. As we work through the silence of refreshing our audio tracks. We're going to go to digitize, select our freehand closed, and that's signified by the highlighted area. It's in a fill, we have the correct color, we're in a satin. Let's dive right in and zoom right on in, and let's create some of these detailed points. And we don't need to do every single one. Working left to right, top to bottom. And the reason for that is, again, every single time we're lifting, choosing a different one, it is adding another cut section. And to phrase it a little clearer, this is going to take a long time to embroider and man the machine, but again, this is the reason why we're doing this, is to create something that cannot be duplicated elsewhere. And how we do that, back to our freehand closed, is let's try to do something that a factory could not do. There we have it. Let's go ahead and right click, unhide all, and there we see the added texture details. So again, we'll resequence off camera, but what it looks like is it's a large initial filling of a lot of these sections, and then the black kind of show it on screen here. It may be hidden by our avatar, so we'll move to the side here if we need to, but right up here in the final details is where it's going to add a majority of these black sections. And we'll come through with a different satin as well after the black. Looks like it's going to be that lightest color. So let's move on to our next section here. Full 20 minutes in, making solid time here. Let's go ahead and hide the selected, and from here we're going to create this effect. Open in a single run. majority of these. As this is coming out, the realization is we can always do a double stitch. And we're going to layer this black effect again. We don't have to hit every single one. Some of these effects in play. So the more variety that we can add to this, it's really going to help out. As we come through, let's add a couple more from the bottom. Again, making our own lines where we need to. Capture these last two. And there we have it. And there should be some function as we attempt to find this. Again, we're learning as we move along. And the reason that we'd want to go over it twice is it would be that much darker. Well, let's go ahead and finish this up here, and you can see that we invaded this other color of so let's take care of that. Let's select this one, move it to the very, very top, and then we'll just, it's much easier to find the top section. Getting closer. Put it before unhide the... You can see we still have it... We actually did correct it and put it in the right section. Okay. Okay, that worked. That worked indeed. So just to confirm, we can see that we have the whiter color, which is labeled as silky white. It's going to be our first color up here, second, third section. Then the black color comes 70 down. Let's go ahead and move this black portion up. And there we have it. What we've achieved here is our... You can see where the areas are hidden now under this other layer. There we are. Let's go ahead and, for example, go ahead and hide this one. There we go. We can kind of see exactly all of our stitches that are running across, dipping into this other section, which is then covered up by a very nice satin. Same thing happened. We've achieved is a very, very nice effect. Let's go in and I'm going to reshape one of these points. There we are. Let's get it away from the edge because we're going to add a triple run stitch around this item. Again, trying to avoid any potential broken needles, any areas where experience is going to kind of lead some of this learning that we're going to have to undergo. Now, enough explanation. Let's go ahead and move on over to our second. Let's hide this one and recreate exactly what we were doing before. We have our black current color. Let's digitize open. We're currently on single run, which is identified by the highlighted section around there. Let's start here. Come all the way up. Again, avoiding that triple run stitch. Let's go ahead and hit reshape on that one as well. Just taking a quick moment here. We're going to do some quick audio readjustment on this end Getting a little too camp here. And just like that, we've recreated that effect. And our audio is definitely much more in line with what White Bat Audio has been presenting and giving us so far. Once again, we're moving this from sequence 101 to 23. It's unfortunate that there's no function to just simply tell it where in the rotation to go to. Outside of pushing it all the way to the very top and then coming down 21 more times. Should be hidden in the correct sequence. Let's go ahead and unhide this selected. And there we have it. So for an added detail, we're going to move this up. Actually, we'll move it back down. And we're going to go into stitching. Scratch that. We're going to go into effects. And our item is selected here. We're going to scroll down far enough. And we're going to do a Florentine effect today. I'm going to go ahead and select my other area of the canopy, and again also adding a Florentine effect. And you're probably wondering, what is that? Let's go ahead and select our first again, and as we hit H, this is our new stitch angle that we can go ahead and edit. We're creating this effect. I'm going to follow the curvature of the window, of the canopy, of the cockpit. Again, just that small added extra area of detail. Pulling down this angle here. And so behind Mando, we see the top of the canopy being broken up through this satin effect, which we covered by accident on our last episode. Moving on, we're creating different satins in different directions, layered upon each other, next to each other. This is the only section so far that we've layered them on top. A lot of this area is going to be available for stitching on top of, and not necessarily create a puncture resistant area. Then we're adding the Florentine, which is fancy. You may be able to see this here. Top section's radial fill. As it sounds, going in circles through the radius, over and over, and or a curve fill, which is what we're going for here. As we zoom in, we can see again the stitch angle just follows the nice curvature of the canopy. Now, there is consideration of a live session of sequencing. It's a little bit it's a lot of clicking, and it doesn't necessarily translate very well in a live studio presentation audience setting there. That's the only reason that we possibly just may leave the sequencing for off screen. And so the goal here is to add as much detail as we work from top to bottom, left to right, which means that the cape is going. Let's go ahead and relax our selection tool by hitting O, or this select feature up here. I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to cut this section. Back to selection. Change it over to a blanket. I'm going to change this over to a blanket as well. And this is kind of going to be our next area. Add layered detail. And that'll likely wrap up our session 6. So let's go back into our knife detail. Three cuts should be three sections, right? And there we have it. Now, this is our neck portion. Let's go ahead and slice, slice, slice. Those may be pretty hard jagged edges, but this is the whole point of why we're trying to attempt this. And there we have it. These are minor jump sections that we're going to go back in and edit through. Again, a lot of that tedious work, start, stop, moving it over. If there's an audience suggestion for it that really wants to see it, we'll go ahead and enter that realm. But otherwise, again, we're finding our flow and exactly our style. Complete section. Let's go into our O, which relaxes our selection tool. Sometimes I've noticed having to click off the entire item just to get it to reset. I'm going to change that center section to black immediately. Try a satin on these two sections here. And on each one of these, ever so slightly. That's going to do is mimic a change in direction for the cape. And there we have it. Let's go ahead and finish making the rest of our chiseled approach. Let's go find our next section here. This one here. Again, removing that travel. Going back to a tatami. And sometimes it just adds a certain amount of angle to this. Reset there. We may have lost our program. Took a moment, if at all. So again, just take a look. That stitch angle came naturally of 1, 2, 3 different angles, moving that around. Very similar to the curve fill. Now that we have those there, let's go ahead and add in our patented outline. Again, everything is patented because we're still learning and moving along. I'm gonna hit outline on that. Back to a dark, back to a triple run. Yes. We're gonna go back in. Just like that. Remove any overlaps. Again, no outline needed on this section here. We have a very nice satin detailed highlighted section, which turned out very nice. Let's go ahead and outline our next item. We have our selection, our duplication, our changeover in color, our triple run effect, and we're going to remove, chisel away. That's right. Same approach. Let's go ahead and triple run this. Let's go ahead and cut it here. And there we have it. Now, earlier off camera, off our live, we were testing out a welding feature and also a branching feature. And what that means is each one of these sections is 3 different areas where the machine would start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. There is a potential where we could weld this all together and the computer would auto simulate, and again creating that nice thicker border. So let's go back to our as we can kind of calm down on the zooming and scrolling. Let's go ahead and briefly recap our 12 colors. We got our black, white. This was our upper canopy section here with these 2, and then the black makes it the 3rd. The undersuit was these 2 selections of colors, with the lighter color being a pecan. And that's important to note because, as you can see, we have a number of detailed items that we can highlight. So let's go ahead and select our pecan. Relax our edit tool. Our pecan then becomes our current color. Let's go ahead and go into digitize. Freehand closed. We're on the satin. And this is the reason for it, is we can do this. Now, this is a different approach. We're just kind of let's go ahead and redo this. And the reason for that, again, is I'm going to hide this selection. Now, we can freehand closed. Really line up with some of these highlighted areas. Let's go ahead and finish this up here. Back into our freehand closed, zoom right on in. Let's go ahead and add this little smaller one here. And if we right click, unhide all, we can see where these are layered right on top. Now, just looking this over already, we have a triple run going around this entire section, and then you're asking the computer to digitize a shape that is going to be very near the same puncture points. Again, when we're repeating over the same area, it's getting a little thicker over time as it's building up. Higher potential for broken needles, less embroider time. And this is the whole reason of why we're here, to just learn some of this, take some in there. And for now, we're going to leave them because they look pretty damn good. So let's go ahead and add an outline to this one here by hitting Control D, changing it to an outline, changing it over to black, doing a triple run, and you can see that we're going to get away with not putting a triple run through here nor through here. Because we're going to be doing the same exact in this section. Then cutting out any overlaps. Let's try that one more time. just like that, we are now 55 minutes into our session number 6. Again, trying to keep these to an hour long. The whole goal of this, again, is to digitize and be more effective in our time management. If you go back to our first episode, we've come a long way. Our alternate channel has also showed definite growth in time execution and, again, level of detail as we start adding more and more to these. Let's go ahead and finish up our next portion of the belt right up here. Looks to be some very straightforward. So we're going to go back in, and I just noticed as I was discussing and monologuing there, we're going to go ahead and cut this. Now, unclear if that's the correct cut line. There we go. So let's change it back over to a fill. Click the lower. We're going to change that stitch angle just to kind of give it a different look. And pausing again for reflection, because this technique of adding the same shape in a triple run, still untested, unclear if it'll actually be a valuable tool, because what you're asking for is this stitch to be in that valley between those two colors being right up against each other. And again, when we're using the knife tool, it's creating sections, which you can see. This line here and this top line are right up against each other. And that's perfect, because if we had to go in and create our own, which I'll briefly we could try our own. Would we be close? Sure enough. We snake through each and every single section. Definitely, that is one way. Again, this is exploring and trying different techniques as we move through different workflows. And still, you could always weld it as a single stitch. And after it was welded as a single, we could then ask it maybe change it up. So let's go ahead and hide the selected. Let's go back into our pecan color. We're going to freehand close shape. sections there. Now, one of the easy ways to sequence these that I noticed, that we'll go ahead and very briefly we'll show it here as we've nosedive. Sequencing, I can simply come here, move this up one, and just like that, it has been pushed into the all black 28th color choice. It's actually a lot less, but we'll get into that later. But again, that's part of the sequencing, and if we go back to the objects, we can see that it's now been moved into the exact area that we need it to. So again, we're going to click off everything, relax our tools, finish up this last detailed section here with a digitized open and a triple run. Make our way and let's see here. Symmetrical on this. There we have it. Again, we don't have to do every single one. And quickly, easily sequence this. Let's go back in. You can see that it's asking for a black, change over to the pecan, back to a black, so it's very simple. We'll just push it up one, and it goes beneath all of those. Right click, unhide all, and there we have it. So as we pause before we move on, let's go ahead and just recap very briefly what we've done here. A curved fill behind the canopy, broke up this section, added the top detailed area of the undersuit, which is coming out very nicely. In our next section, we'll go ahead and continue on with the armor, again top to bottom, left to right. At this point, with our sequencing being held off our live stream. So again, this is K22 with Sheevs Emporium. Let's go to our ending screen as we transition and wrap up day number 6 to this channel. And the reason that we're taking so much time on this one is it will be stitched out. This is our refined and revised approach versus day 1, where we had no intention of ever a machine-ready embroidery file. But this time around, the only way to improve is to add some inherent limits. So that's what we're doing. Join us, day number 7, session live number 7. So we wrap up more of this detail on Mando and move closer to a time-lapsed embroidery video coming to this channel very soon. So locking the vault doors now. Join us, day number 7. A like and subscribe goes a long way to our YouTube partnership program. Until next time.